Well, I wasn't going to film any of this because there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube and various other places, but the experience I've just had, I thought I would film this for other users. So this is I call it a Cricut, but it's not, it's Cricut apparently. I recently purchased a whole load of this stuff with rolls of vinyl and heat transfer stuff and a Cricut Joy and a Cricut press. It was on eBay. Somebody was selling the whole lot for $5.50. They were moving house to somewhere smaller, so I thought, again, you know, a handy little sideline to be able to have. So anyway, I grabbed the lot and met them halfway and collected it all supposed to be working perfectly. When I came to look at this, it quickly became obvious that it's an extremely large amount of use, which isn't necessarily an issue with these. But one of the things that does happen, there are two rubber rollers, and I'm going to put the originals back. You can see they are very tight friction fit on the shaft, and this shaft is geared each end, and geared that end, and it's just in a brass bushing at that end, and this spins, and whatever you're working on is fed through, and it's gripped by this roller. And the metal roller that you can see, that is a free spinning metal roller, and everything is controlled from this shaft and these rollers. And yeah, you can see the state that these were in, and what was happening as soon as you fed anything through, the rollers were trying to go off to one side, and it was rippling the board and the card that was, you know, being pulled through. So obviously had to get rid of these. I assumed it was a consumable and probably a simple change. Pop the cover off, you know, fit new ones. Turns out that Cricut don't supply any of these parts. You know, anything that requires the cover to come off, you can't buy it. So it looked like I was going to have to 3D print something, design it myself, and of course, looking at the state of this, you'd be hard pressed to know what the original dimensions were. And then I went online, and of course a number of people have 3D printed new rollers, and I just downloaded the STL files and did a test run in PLA. Whoops, dropped it. And just to see what the dimensions were, see if that seemed okay. And then I printed one in this blue TPU just for the hell of it, and then I printed another one, and I've just done a batch of 8 all together. I just wanted to see whether my retraction settings were okay for TPU, and no, they weren't. We had quite a bit of stringing as we went between each of the 8 on the bed. So yeah, definitely need different retraction settings. But the simple thing is, afterwards you just get a brand new razor blade and just slice off anything. You can probably see, not entirely round. I was going to redesign them, but you know, I thought, yeah, if people are using these, it's because it works, and it doesn't really matter whether it's entirely round or not. I'm not even sure you can print entirely round on a 3D printer. It's made up of, well, yeah, anyway, that's another story. But I wanted to point out a few things. So yes, you can print out the rollers. 2 of my rubber feet were missing, and I'm just printing those out now, again from a file online, just using the same blue TPA because it's one I've just unwrapped today. But to get these apart, well, the first thing you've got to do is open the lid, drop the front. Now this plastic strip here looks like it's part of the lid, but it isn't. It is a cover, and you can, with a spudger, And what I ended up using is one of these very sharp tools that I think it came with one of the 3D printers. I've never used it, it's not required, but it's got a very sharp edge. And what I managed to do was just to get into here and lever up enough just to lift up the plastic, and then I could get another metal spudger in and just start prising it up. It's held in place. There's a hole in the other end and a plastic prong, really I would describe it, as part of this. There's one there, one there, one there, one there and one there, I think. And each one was popping out absolutely fine right up until I got to the end. And as I was trying to lever it up, it snapped, which I couldn't believe. I was going to sell this machine afterwards, and not only has it snapped off there, but it also pinged off, and I cannot bloody find it. I've gone through the bins, all the bags, underneath the drawer units. I've looked absolutely everywhere, so I can't find it, because it would have been a nice simple job. It's a nice clean cut. I would have just super glued it back on. The reason it broke, the scumbags during manufacture, I might not be able to get the reflection of this, have super glued it in place there. I don't know whether you can just see that mark. Yeah, see it? Somebody at the factory has put a blob of super glue on there when they finished the assembly and fixed that in, guaranteeing that you will break it or not even bother, trying and just giving up. Underneath here, I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 screws, and they have decided to stop you touching this machine, they have fitted torque screws. I think 1, 2, 3, I think it was 4 or 5, easily removable. But why use torque screws? The other reason is just another excuse for you not to actually proceed any further, thinking, well, yeah, this is too much trouble. But if you do get this cover off and you do get the screws out, this lid then lifts up and you can remove it. The next stage is there are screws. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to film this with the camera or not. Okay, yeah, can you see? I'm trying to get my finger there, where my thumb is. You can see screws, and there are quite a few of them, and some of them are just hiding behind this lip here. Some are at the back, and you can see those ones, and some are just underneath here. Now, what I did is to get a little stubby bit, Phillips stubby bit, and with my fingers I managed to get it in there and unscrew it. If you've got strong fingers, you'll find these small screws will come out with strong finger pressure. You don't need to try and get some stubby little screwdriver in there, or buy some 90-degree wrench, wrench or anything like that. Just do it by hand. When you reassemble this, again, you can tighten these up by hand, and just if you find that it feels a bit too tight, just back the screw out and start again. It's probably gone in slightly differently and it's trying to cut itself a new thread. So if you can put it into the used thread, you'll be able to do that up by hand. Anyway, once you've got all those undone, you can lift off this main housing. That will pull out if you give it a good tug. It is just a storage container, but this whole housing, all this will lift up. On the right you've got a ribbon cable going down to a board at the bottom here, so as you lift this up, swing it over to the right, stand it upright with this at the bottom, just gently unplug the connector, bit of tape holding the cable down, you can just peel that back, simply enough. Just go online and look at the videos on how to do this. It is straightforward. There's a motor that unscrews this end, pull the gear out slightly, there's a little circlip holding that shaft in place, and without taking the plastic gear fully off, and anyone that's done this will know what I mean, you can actually get a screwdriver, flat bladed screwdriver in there, and you can pop the little circlip off the end of this shaft. The plastic gear is quite a large one and it won't come off because there is a metal bracket fouling it, so you don't have to dismantle the whole lot. Take the motor off, a couple of springs to release, pop the circlip off. Same this end, it's just a lever really, it's a spring-loaded lever, and you've got the same type of circlip at this end. Once you've done that, you can push this shaft in to the right, just a little way. It's a bit of a faff, but you will find that you can get it in just far enough so this comes out and it clears this plastic, and you can just lift this shaft up and out through here. Okay, so yeah, again a little bit fiddly but not too bad. The old rubbers obviously just pretty much fell off. I mean, you could have cut those off if you'd wanted, but I mean, it's clearly been knackered for absolutely ages. Look at the state of it. And I was very surprised to find that the actual size is like that. Anyway, so TPU, that's what they're printed in. It's a soft, flexible material. I've got multiple colours, so I just grabbed this new blue one and printed off the file. Now it is extremely tight to get these onto the shaft, even from the start. There is a recessed bit here, so the metal is cut in, across and then back out, so that is actually sitting in a groove that's as wide as the plastic piece. I used a hot air gun, one of these. You might be able to get away with boiling water, soak it in boiling water, or a hairdryer possibly, but you're going to have to get that nice and warm and keep it warm as you slide it along the shaft. Keep heating it up and eventually you'll be able to push it down far enough and it will click into that groove. Exactly the same the other end, extremely tight fit, and you might think, well hang on, that's not anywhere near touching the roller, but it actually is. The 3D print came out pretty good. Retraction settings not right, bit of stringing just cut off with the knife. Now I could have gone for a random seam, but I thought that was a little bit over the top, and this is, you know, bonded to itself very nicely, so I don't expect there to be any real weakness at that seam. But if you wanted to, you could randomize the seam. I just don't think there was any necessity to do that, but we'll see. Might be wrong. You might find these will split at some point, but yeah, so I am extremely pissed off with the manufacturer that they decided to put superglue in that corner. I'm quite convinced it's been done during manufacturing. There's no reason a user would do that or even attempt to take this off. There were certainly no signs of this cover being having been removed before. Any marks on here, which there are a couple now, is where I've tried to lever it off. But yeah, if you just flex that lid forward a little bit, you can see where the join is. Probably can't on the camera here, and that slight split where the join is where you need to get the your spudger or blade or whatever in there, and obviously start from this end, because and then of course a different person that's assembling this may well put super glue at the other end or all over the place. Very, very disappointing to see that, plus the lack of availability of these parts. Torque screws that are going to put off your average customer from touching this. This is a 400 quid machine, very, very annoying to see that that has been deliberately sabotaged, so you can't easily repair it, or if you do, you're going to damage it like I just did. Could I have got that undone? Well, possibly without breaking it, but I would have had to have gone in there with a sharp blade and given it a few good taps to break that superglue seal, and that would have done quite possibly other damage. If I could only find the bloody bit, I would superglue that back in, and you wouldn't be any the wiser. So yeah, we've just got to set this up now. We'll run a calibration. Yeah, it's already been calibrated and it's working perfectly, but I will do another calibration now it's all been apart and disturbed, and yeah, we should be good to go. So yeah, just a warning when you are working on one of these, or you know, when you are thinking of taking it apart. I forgot to mention there are screws under the feet that are currently missing. There are 4 long screws. We've got 4 of one type here, and we've got 3 of a different type there. So take these out, and you've got a bit of dirt in there to clean up. I'll get some isopropyl in there. So yeah, just lay everything out as you take it apart, and you should be good to go. Just one further warning: when this cover is off, there's a little mechanism at the end here, and it is covered in a almost transparent grease-like substance, but it is thick and sticky as anything I've ever come across. So I wore gloves. I've had to get 2 pairs of gloves ruined. You do not want whatever that is on your skin, because you might struggle to get it off. So just a warning about the mechanism at that end. Other than that, it is a relatively straightforward process. I believe the newer version, the Maker 3, is pretty much the same. I believe the only real difference is that it is a slightly more powerful and faster machine, but I think as far as the rollers go, it is pretty much identical. So there we go. Just bear those points in mind if you are changing the rollers. And just a final look at this. Just finished with the TPU feet. Still stringing, unfortunately, despite changing the retraction, but quickly came off. And yeah, I've done them in the matching blue, fit perfectly, and that is the job done. Everything's been cleaned. It's going to go back inside for a calibration, and that'll be ready to do whatever I want it to do. I have gone through the whole workshop looking for that piece of plastic. I've emptied the bins out. I've gone through every bin with the contents on the floor. I've had the boxes out, the bags out, the cables out, the ceramic plates out. I've looked behind every piece of equipment, and I cannot find it. I'm sure it will turn up at some point, but where the hell? I've had all of these out, just don't get where that's gone. It just pinged off and went in there somewhere, just hit the ground down there. I can't find it. Anyway, look, hope that was useful. It's well worth printing off these bits as required. I've printed some off for spares. Might even be worth listing them on eBay, or at least put them on my YouTube page. So yeah, there we go. Hope that was helpful.